approach writing a piece when multiple authors are involved? What kinds of time commitments and responsibilities should each person have? That's what we're talking about in this video. Hey everyone, I'm Leigh from teachingacademia.com, and I'm all about giving you the tools you need to navigate academia to make your best impact. If you're new here, welcome. This is the place to come for tips and advice to navigate higher ed to have the career that you want to have. So today we're talking about multiple, pieces with multiple authors on them, okay? And specifically, what are the responsibilities for each person depending on where you fall in the lineup, and what kinds of time commitments can you expect? Now, I'm going to give you a pretty good overview on what this looks like, but know that you can always make tweaks and revise this to your situation. The key here is no matter how many authors are on a piece, is that you want to get these agreements in place before you start writing, okay? That way there's no, arguments, etc. Everybody knows exactly what they're responsible for, and if at some point somebody needs to drop out or the order of authors needs to be switched, which I've personally had happen before, everybody knows exactly what's going on and who's got what under control. All right, so let's think about this. We're going to talk about this in terms of having three authors. So first author, usually the first author has conceptualized the piece, right? It's their baby, it's their idea. They've invited others on board because they believe that those people, either because they're a part of the team, a research team, or they believe that these are the people that are really going to help make this piece better. They have something worthwhile to contribute, okay? So first author, first author is going to write at least 50% of the piece, up to 75% of the piece, right? It's your baby, you conceptualize it. You are, as first author, carrying most of the load here. You will be managing all the other authors, meaning you understand what everybody's individual responsibility is, and you're keeping them on a deadline. You're going to be collecting them from, their drafts from them. You're going to be providing them with feedback. You are, as first author, typically responsible for making all final edits, getting that piece polished up and sent out the door. You're on it first, so the buck stops with you, all right? You handle the journal submission as first author. Right now, you might collaborate with the other authors to decide what journal it's going to go to. You might have entered into an agreement with these are the journals we're targeting from the get-go, but you as first author handle the submission. Revise and resubmit comes back to you. You handle the revisions. Now, that doesn't mean that the second or the third author don't do revisions, but you're going to do most of the revisions. You're going to delegate to your co-authors what revisions they're responsible for and when. Again, you're going to manage all of that, round it all up by the deadline. You're going to write the cover letter that explains everything to send it back in to the editors for revise and resubmit. You do most of the work as first author. Second author, and this is where things start to get a little more flexible. Second author is going to write somewhere around 25 to 50% of the paper. You might be asked to give revisions. You might be asked, give feedback, right? To read the paper, the entire thing from beginning to end, and give edits and suggestions for feedback to the first author. The first author might ask you to read a draft early on of the work and give feedback. You will do revisions as requested. You may need to do revisions in a revise and resubmit scenario where there are specific revisions that need to be made to the chunk of text that you were in charge of, all right? If you are a third author, there's a number of ways that this might play out. So you might only write, you're probably not going to write 25% of the paper. You're going to write 25% or less of the paper. You might be invited to write an introduction, or you might be writing just the conclusion, okay? You're going to have a very small section of the paper from third author, on. You may not write any original material, right? You might be a member of a research team, and you might say, I don't have a lot of time, but I do want to be involved, and I can give feedback on all of the drafts, right? So you might only do feedback. You may or may not handle revisions in a revise and resubmit scenario. If you're writing, like, for example, an introduction or just a conclusion, the first author may handle any revisions necessary for that, or they may ask you, can you attend to these revisions in your particular section, that again would be reasonable, but it's going to be a small amount of your time because you're third author, and you're going to, if you write original text, it's going to be a very small amount of original text that you write. So that's an overview of how to think about responsibilities and time commitments in a multiple authorship scenario. Okay, the higher up you are in that scenario, the more you will write. Obviously, the more you will be in charge of, the more you will have to manage. All right, so thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe so you can catch all my videos. And while you're at it, head down to the comments and let's talk about questions that you have about multiple authorship, how to manage it, how to navigate your responsibilities so that we can all help and support one another and help you move forward with your academic journey.